A Newsmax host recently exploded at a veteran that's helping Americans and Afghans escape the Taliban. Watch.
I can tell you this didn't happen under President Trump. And I know there's a lot of people on the left that want to try to blame President Trump. He wanted out of Afghanistan real bad. He was real frustrated not being able to get out. But he didn't pull out because he knew this would happen. In fact, we all did. I called it on this program. My 12-year-old son knew about it. And so I've got Americans there that are stuck. To me, that's a hostage situation. But, Joe, I appreciate you working to get them out. I really do. Yeah. And I wish you all luck in the world
with due
getting them.
respect,
Thank you for...
with due respect, Grant, I mean, like, veterans, you know, being one, right, and our friends are over there.
Right.
We followed this closely for multiple administrations, and we know the Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak, that they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out. And so there was coordination problems.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Joe, cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show. That's not happening. Now, I appreciate the work that you're doing. God bless you for being a veteran. God bless you for trying to get Americans out. But don't come on this program and take the talking points of the left and blame President Trump. That's not helping anybody. The Biden administration screwed this up from the very start. You know it. I know it. The country knows it. And to call them not hostages, I don't know how you don't call them hostages. They're stuck in Afghanistan with a country overrun with terrorists that are willing to kill them all.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, you might want to calm down there a little bit, man. Stinchfield. Wow. Cut him off, cut him off, cut him off. I won't have you criticizing dear leader. I'm mad. I'm so mad. 0 to unhinged in like 2.5 seconds. All over some very mild criticism of Donald Trump, which, by the way, he also criticized the Biden administration, which is totally fair. Again, the man that he was talking to is trying to help get people out of Afghanistan. And the man, of course, is Joe Sabo, right? Nothing that he said was incorrect. But again, this is part of the conversation. It wasn't in the video. He said, quote, "I think you and I can both agree," this is what Stinchfield said, "that this never needed to happen. If the government knew what it was doing, we wouldn't have Americans in this situation." Now, this is true. That's true. I agree with that. Now, Sabo also agreed with it. He said, "I think multiple administrations leading up to this had multiple opportunities to try to set this up for success. And I think that's not happened. And right now, we as a country need to come together and help these people, our allies." Now, again, I agree with that. Absolutely. We do, and understand that this should not be a partisan issue. Americans should be able to come home, and we should have a place for our Afghan allies who put their lives on the line to help us. This is not a complicated situation. Okay? Now, as for criticism, again, you could say, and this is perfectly fine criticism, Biden was absolutely unprepared for this. Despite getting an extension from the original date signed by the Trump administration to pull out by May 1st. Okay? That was extended to August 31st in order to try to give us more time to evacuate more people. Taliban did not agree to any more further extensions, so it was a mess, but nonetheless, the State Department did have agreements with the Taliban to try to get people out. But it was a mess, and a pullout was always going to be a bit of a mess, but it might not have been quite as messy had the Trump administration also you did what they could do to plan this better to help the Biden administration conduct a smoother pullout. But that said, right, as Stinchfield said, the president knew that this was going to happen. Trump administration actually negotiated the peace agreement with the Taliban on February of 2020, which included a promise to reduce troops and eventually withdraw completely by May 1st, as I mentioned. It's also been reported that Trump attempted to fully withdraw by January 15th of this year. So even sooner. And again, that would have been probably a disaster. Horribly messy. But there's more. It turns out that the Trump administration had attempted to slow down getting Afghans out. So now, this was a report back in 2019 in NPR saying, hey, we don't have enough special immigrant visas for our Afghan allies and Iraqi allies as well, and maybe we should do something about it. So now under the Trump administration, Iraqi and Afghan allies coming to the U.S., the number of them had dropped dramatically. And the administration, this is according to Adam Bates with the International Refugee Assistance Project, blames the Trump administration for slowing them down and charged that they are, quote, hostile to refugees. Well, yes. I mean, look at any of Trump's rhetoric during the time that he was president, and it is very obvious that he and the Republican Party are absolutely hostile to refugees. Yes, they hate refugees. Even so, again, as a Republican, I mean, you can't look, okay, well, they do, but you can't say, look, those like the refugees that helped our troops, since we support the troops so much, well, we shouldn't let them into the country because they're dangerous. They literally put their lives in danger to help our soldiers there get the job done, or try to get their job done while they were there. Now, they shouldn't have been there in the first place, our soldiers, but that's the situation. That was the agreement. For their help, we were going to protect them and allow them to come to the United States. But we didn't. Bates said that in Iraq, there is a backlog of more than 100,000 people in the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, Direct Access Program, and of course, in 2018, only 200 were cleared, down from nearly 10,000 in 2016. The number of Afghans getting visas had slowed down as well, down about 60% in recent years. Bates says more than 4,000 were cleared in fiscal year 2017, compared with about 1,650 in 2018. So it absolutely has slowed down. Now, he says also it would be impossible to say that these substantial drops are not part of some policy. These are people who put themselves at risk because they served with U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. More importantly, and I should say more recently, Olivia Troy, former advisor to Vice President Pence, said the Trump administration actively took steps to restrict refugee admissions and undermine the SIV program. She tweeted this: there were cabinet meetings about this during the Trump administration where Stephen Miller would peddle his racist hysteria about Iraq and Afghanistan. He and his enablers across government would undermine anyone who worked on solving the SIV issue by devastating the system at DHS and state. And this was a long Twitter thread. So now Trump and Stephen Miller, she also added, had watchdogs in place at DOJ, DHS, state and security agencies that made an already cumbersome SAV process even more challenging. So these are not left-wing talking points. These are facts. This is someone who was serving in this administration. And the fact that so many did not get out was not the fault of Joe Biden screwing it up from the very beginning. No, this, again, he inherited a plan to withdraw, which, by the way, was the right thing to do. The right thing to do was to withdraw from Afghanistan. And even the right thing would have been to not go to Afghanistan or Iraq at all. But we're too late for that, right? Again, Trump inherited that, the Afghanistan war. And by the way, it took a very long time to engineer an exit strategy to get out in the first place. And then, of course, Joe Biden simply inherited that, the Trump agreement, and honored it. Unlike, of course, what Trump did with the Iran deal. If you remember that. So, again, the pullout was pretty half-baked, but again, the right policy decision, but really, really bad execution. And again, the Biden administration also, as a result of what was previously in place, also had a pretty poor execution. And they thought they might have had more time before the Taliban took over the country. But we've already talked about that. We've litigated that mess. So that said, those are facts. Stinchfield couldn't accept that factual information, not on his show. No. Can't do that. No, even though it's a very incredibly mild critique of Trump and Biden and government, and different administrations that had handled this disastrous war in Afghanistan. Can't criticize Trump, though. We can't criticize them. We can criticize everybody else and pin everything on Joe Biden. but not on Trump at all, because it disputes the narrative that he's trying to spin, that it's 100% Joe Biden's fault for every single bad thing that's happened in Afghanistan. And if Trump were there, it would have been absolutely perfect. No, you want to talk about safe space? Newsmax is the ultimate safe space for chuds. Bottom line. And look, I don't know Joe Sabo's politics. I don't really care. The guy's doing the right thing. Yes, he's trying to get people out of Afghanistan, our allies and American citizens. Of course I support that. And I also support the fact that he wasn't at all interested in playing Newsmax bullshit partisan game, which obviously, as you saw, completely enraged Stinchfield, who was nothing more than an easily triggered baby and political hack. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.